welcome to Lawyer of the Week. Lawyer of the Week is creating a global community of lawyers, solicitors, and their support to inform and to encourage each other. Hi, my name is Pamela Deneuve, and I work with successful and focused lawyers to help them to achieve their peak performance as well as to establish their legacy. Thank you so much for joining us this week as we listen in and watch someone who is a peak performer who is also working to establish their legacy. Let's listen. Hi, my name is Pamela Deneuve, and welcome to Lawyer of the Week. Today, I'm very pleased to interview Maurice Rabb, who is in Japan, in Tokyo. And let me tell you a little bit about Maurice. Maurice received his undergraduate degree from Georgetown and his JD from Berkeley. He is the founder of the Tokyo chapter of Legal Hackers, a global movement exploring and developing creative solutions to some of the most pressing issues at the intersection of law and technology. Maurice is also a board member of TEL Japan, a Japanese NPO dedicated to providing effective support and counseling services to Japan's international community and its increasing mental health needs. Welcome, Maurice.
Hello, Pamela. Thank you.
So, how's the weather there in Japan?
Well, this morning, it's morning here in Tokyo. It's snowing. I think it's going to turn into another snowstorm.
Another snowstorm. Okay, so you've had a few this year?
Yeah, we've had a few. Had one last week and now another one today.
Okay, all right. So do you have like winter clothes and boots and all that there, or no?
Absolutely not.
Oh, yeah?
So before I moved here, I was in California, and I didn't need any winter clothes here. And it's not as cold as it is, from Chicago, which is where I'm originally from. So
yes.
No, I think I can handle this type of weather.
Right. Yeah, we have those two things in common. Chicago area, and I lived in Los Angeles for 17 years. So Los Angeles area.
Wow.
Were you in Northern California?
Both. So I lived in California or LA after I graduated from Georgetown, and lived there for a few years before the first time I came to Japan. And then when I went to law school, I lived in Northern California.
Oh, okay. And then from Northern California, you went back to Japan?
Yep, came straight here after law school.
Oh, did you?
Haven't left since.
And you've been there how many years now?
11 years.
11 years.
So when I first graduated from Georgetown or from Berkeley, I came out and was a corporate lawyer for Maurice and Forster.
Yes.
In the Tokyo office, and practiced there for about 6 years, and then left and worked for an NPO, education NPO here in Tokyo.
Yes.
For a few years. Then I worked for a Japanese law firm for 2 years, and went back to MoFo to run attorney recruiting and development. And then recently just launched my own HR recruiting consultancy.
Wow, that's really exciting. So let me ask you the Lawyer of the Week questions. So the first one is, when and what made you decide to switch from practicing law to HR, learning, development, and coaching?
Right. So for me, actually, my first career was teaching. So I started after university. I did Teach for America for 2 years, and then came and taught in Japan for a few years. So I guess the foundation of my work, or the foundation of my career, was always education. And even when I started at MoFo, I was working a lot with lawyers to try to help them learn and develop. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And what really sort of made that huge switch was having an opportunity to work with the NPO. So I left the firm to help start the NPO, and doing the work there, I was doing a lot of recruiting and coaching and team building, and really just helping people develop, and decided, this is an area where I'd like to devote the rest of my career and most of my career. So combining my passion for law, but my passion for also helping people develop.
Yes. Could you explain, because maybe some of the audience may not really understand what an NPO is.
Right. So NPO is a nonprofit organization, and these are types of organizations that usually have some type of social cause, or it can be a governmental organization that it makes revenue, but any of its revenue it puts back into the organization. So no shareholders, no profit given to shareholders.
Yes.
A lot of the money made a lot of the money for NPOs either comes from donations or grants or types of funding, public funding or private funding from organizations and corporations.
Interesting. So can I just ask you, like, why Japan?
Yeah, why Japan? So actually, in university, I was actually more of a China guy.
Ah,
So I studied Chinese and China and lived in China during my university years, and knew that I wanted to do something in Asia. But after I did teach for America for a few years, I had the opportunity to come over to Japan and do some teaching and work here, and sort of made the move over to Japan and lived here for a few years. And when I left, I didn't necessarily plan on coming back to Japan. I knew I would probably do something in the region, but just talking to different law firms and seeing what the opportunities were, I came across MoFo, which has a very strong Japan presence, and I like the people, I like the culture of the firm. So I had an opportunity to come here and start my career in Tokyo. So that's why I came over. And the initial plan was just to be here for a few years and then head over to China. But the Lehman shock happened during the first years when I was here, and economy wasn't so strong globally, and
yes.
China just took a different trajectory. So I just ended up staying here longer and working at the MPO and just building up a good network of people. So far I'm still here.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. I was just thinking, my son, he, when he was in undergrad school, they were doing the changeover from in Hong Kong over to China rule, and he wanted to be over there. I think it was the year after the changeover, and that's when he fell in love with Asia. So so I could understand, people who haven't experienced it may not understand the how important, living in Asia can be in your life, and very, very enriching.
I've loved it so far.
And also developing your brain waves as you continue to switch from English to Japanese to Chinese in your case. So we try to encourage peak performance. And what are some of the obstacles, would you say, that you had to overcome to become successful?
Well, for me, one major one is culture. A lot of my career has been in a foreign culture and in foreign land, and being here, learning how to speak Japanese, learning the customs, learning the norms, and also being in a tough profession, having to learn that too. So trying to learn how to be a lawyer and then later how to be a good HR or learning development professional, and also trying to do it within a culture that doesn't that I didn't grow up in and that I had to learn to adjust and learn to be comfortable with. So that's like sort of at the big picture. At the sort of current obstacles is the kind of work that I'm doing with lawyers, particularly.
Yes.
Even in the US, lawyers tend to be resistant to change.
Yes, absolutely.
And they have certain habits and have certain behaviors that they get used to, and that has worked for them in the past, and sometimes think it'll continue to work. Well, obviously that's no exception in Japan, and given that Japan also by culture is a risk averse culture, so you
Yes.
take a very conservative group that is resistant to change, and then you're in a very conservative or risk averse culture and trying to talk about innovation or trying to talk about developing different types of skill sets or learning different types of behaviors. I call it 21st century lawyering. It can be difficult and it can be challenging, there are a few projects that I've been working on for 4 years,
Uh-huh.
and just now starting to get more traction, particularly among the Japanese learners. But I'm resilient, and so I won't give up because I think
That's
learning and development is so important, and I
mhm.
think that in the end they'll thank me for being resilient and pushing them.
Absolutely. I'm wondering, just as an aside, in the United States, I don't know if you've heard about the Task Force for Lawyer Wellbeing and the report
Hmm.
and statistic. You have heard of that.
Yes, yes.
And how do you find the case? Do you have the same problems in Japan that in the US with depression, anxiety, and substance abuse?
Certainly, and the mental wellness and just general wellness is the reason I joined the MPO,
Ah,
and that was given that it is an increasing issue here, just like it is in other parts of the world,
mm-hmm,
both for youth
mm-hmm.
and for regular workers and for bengoshi, or bengoshi is lawyer in Japanese.
Uh,
So it's also it's also very very difficult for them too, and to have an effect on that and have an impact. I joined the board of TEL Japan,
uh-huh.
which really focuses on having mental wellness for the English speaking community
Oh,
in
really?
Japan,
Hmm.
but we also do work for the Japanese community. And so yeah, it is an issue, and it's something that I think about every day, and I'm involved in trying to help raise awareness and help find solutions for helping people have good wellness.
Hmm. Well, that's really a wonderful commitment to have. And I'm sure that it takes a lot of commitment and determination to stay with it when a lot of times it's not easy.
Right, right.
So, what advice would you give someone who's struggling or facing difficulty in reaching their goals?
Right. I would say one thing is really try to get a sense of what their vision is,
Hmm.
and spend a little bit of time maybe doing some self evaluation, exploring their values, exploring their vision, exploring kind of where they want to go,
Hmm.
and where they are now, and then find the right support system to help you grow that. And because no man is an island, and we do need a community, and we're communal creatures. So I think it's good to have a sense of what your vision is, and where you want to go, and then have people, friends, family, mentors, sponsors, a variety of people who can help you, both encourage you to get there, and sometimes challenge you,
Yes.
and make you think hard, and reevaluate what approaches that you may or may not want to take.
Sounds like the wise words of someone who's a coach.
When coaching, I try to listen, and help the client, really help them bring out their path, and figure out their use their strengths to go where they need to go.
Yes. And if you're like me, my clients hold me to the wire and they say, "Okay, are you walking the talk too?" So it's
Exactly.
really important, and I have someone said they asked Oprah how many coaches she had, and she said four.
Right.
So yeah, so I've surrounded myself with a few as well.
Right.
So what legacy would you like to leave, Maurice?
In terms of legacy, for me, I would like to know that I left the world a better place than when I came into. And a lot of activities that I do, and interactions that I have, is am I making the world a better place? The people that I'm interacting with, am I enriching their lives, or am I bringing more pain and misery into their lives?
Yes.
So for me, at the end of the day, or at the end of my days,
Uh-huh.
I want people to look back and say, yes, he really did make the world a better place, and here are some concrete examples of places where he's influenced people, or influenced organizations, or cultures.
Hmm.
So if I can do that, and leave that to the world, then I think I've done a pretty good job.
That's wonderful. So, are there any, uh, I guess, Americans? Is there a pretty large American community there,
Yes.
or there are there American lawyers?
In, in,
Ex.
expats. Yeah.
Right. In terms of lawyers, of the foreign lawyers or non-Japanese lawyers, I would say the majority of them are from the U.S.
Oh.
or U.S. qualified.
Mhm.
And the thing I do love about Japan is I just have so many different communities, and I do have American community. So I have friends, Americans. I'll go watch the Super Bowl
Uh-huh.
on Monday. It's Monday
Yeah.
morning in Japan, so I'll go watch
Yes.
the Super Bowl on Monday morning
Mhm.
at one of the bases with my American friends.
Mhm.
But I also have a lot of friends from other parts of the world, which is from various countries in Africa. I have friends from South America, from Europe. Of course, I have a lot of Japanese friends
Mhm.
and other Asian friends. So Tokyo is such a cosmopolitan city where you can have really a variety. And
Mhm.
some of my friends are expats, some of them are local workers, a variety of types of jobs. So it's something that I really appreciate about living here, and
Yes.
one of the things that makes it hard to leave.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm sure that that's really very enriching to have so much diversity and different
Yes.
learning about different people's cultures and things like that. Um, so name one thing that you do, Maurice, to manage your stress levels.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Um, Name one thing that you do to manage your stress
Oh, yes.
levels.
Good. So there are two major things that I like to do to manage stress. The first one is go to the Japanese hot springs
Oh.
or the Japanese bath.
Mhm.
There are just a lot here, both near Tokyo and several hours train ride away.
Mhm.
So I try to go at least once a month or once every other month, go and bathe
Mhm.
and relax, get into nature
Yes.
and see and just sort of have good Japanese food
Mhm.
and relax. So that's something that I regularly do to manage stress. And then the other is support system, different friends and family. Talk with them, and I have different friends or different people I can talk to for different types of stress,
Yes.
and really be open. And that's something particularly working with the MPO. I realized you have to talk it and talk through it and
Mhm.
really share if you have pain or if you have stress. Share that with people close to you, and people
Uh-huh.
who will listen. So
Yes.
that's something. I'm not afraid to talk, and I don't have any problems talking. So that really helps to release my stress and helps me maintain a balanced life.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, Maurice, we really appreciate you being our lawyer of the week.
Thank
And
you.
yes, be careful out there in the snow.
Well, thank you.
Snow
Thank you,
in
Carol.
Tokyo. Snow in Tokyo.
Right.
And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us on Lawyer of the Week. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you for joining Lawyer of the Week. As always, I encourage and support each one of you to achieve your own peak performance, move your law practice to the next level, and create your own legacy. I'd love to read your comments about how you achieve peak performance in your law practice below.